The Burgher and the Pauper, Part 1. A Tale. Once there was a burgher, a great merchant, who was an extremely rich man and had a vast amount of merchandise. His promissory notes and letters of credit circulated over the world, and he had everything good. Below him lived a pauper who was an extremely poor man and had the complete opposite of the burgher. But both of them had no children. The burgher had no children, and likewise, the pauper also had no children. Once the burgher dreamed that people came to his house and were making packages and packages. He asked them, "What are you doing?" They replied, "They will carry it all away to that very same pauper who lived under him." It annoyed him very much, and he grew very angry that they wanted to carry away all his wealth to the pauper. To be wroth at them was impossible, for they were a good many people. Meanwhile, he woke up and saw, "It's a dream." And even though he saw it's only a dream, and thank God all his belongings were with him, still all the same, his heart pounded mightily, and the dream could not be gotten out of his mind, and the dream upset him severely. One time the pauper's wife came to his house, and he gave her what he gave her, and his expression changed, and he became stricken with fear. She asked him and said, "I beg pardon, Your Honor. Tell me why it is that whenever we come to you, your face becomes drastically changed." He told her the whole story, that he had had such a dream as above, and since then his heart has been pounding him mightily as above. Now the burgher has become all the more frightened and confused, since he has heard her dream as well, because it seems that his wealth and property are to be brought to the pauper, and that the pauper's poverty are to be brought to him. He has become extremely panicked. And the day came to pass. The burgher's wife took a trip by coach, taking other wives along with her, and she took the pauper's wife too. And while traveling along on their tour, meanwhile, a general and his army passed through. They got off the road, and the army passed through. And she was a heaven-fearing person, that is, she had fear of God. And she was not willing to listen to him at all, and she wept very profusely. The pauper wept very, very much, beating his head against the wall and constantly mourning for his wife bitterly. One day the burgher passed by the pauper's house and heard the poor man crying so bitterly and beating his head against the wall. He went in and asked him, "Why are you crying so intensely?" He answered him, "Why shouldn't I weep? What do I have left? Some people are left with wealth or with children. I have nothing at all, and my wife has also been taken from me. What do I have left?" The burgher's heart was very touched, captured, and he had great pity on the pauper on account of seeing his bitterness, his acute sorrow, and he went and did a reckless thing. It was so truly an insanity. And he went and asked in which city the general lives, and he journeyed there. Then he did a reckless, very panicked thing, going into the general's house. Now, before the general there are sentries posted, but the burgher, on account of his severe agitation, suddenly with extreme turmoil, went and paid no attention to the guards whatsoever. And the guards became shocked and extremely confused due to suddenly seeing a man beside them in great agitation, so they became very shocked. How did this guy get here? And due to their panic, all the guards permitted him, and he passed through all the guards until he went into the general's house, in the place where the pauper's wife was lying. The burgher went and hid himself with her in a pit, where there was rainwater until the commotion died down, and he tarried there with her for 2 days. She saw the great self-sacrifice that he has for her sake and the troubles that he suffers for her, and she swore by God that all the mazal, fortune, that she has, possibly she has some kind of mazal, that she will have supreme grandeur and success, then all her success will not be withheld from him. However, how does one get witnesses there? She took the pit as a witness. After 2 days, he went out of the pit with her and went further, and he went with her further and further. And he understood that there in that place she is also being sought. he went and hid himself with her in a ritual bath. There once again she recalled the great sacrifice and the suffering which he endures for her sake, and she once again swore as before, that all her mazal, etc., as mentioned, taking the ritual bath as her witness. When they came to the sea, and the Burgher was a great merchant and knew the sea lanes, he negotiated to get to his country until he travelled the way and came home with the Pauper's wife and brought her back to the Pauper. There was great rejoicing. The Burgher, because he had done such a thing, and in addition had withstood trial, passed the test with her. That is, he had the fear of God and did not touch her. Therefore he was remembered by the Holy One, blessed be he, and that year he had a son. And she too, that is, the Pauper's wife, because she withstood such a trial, both with the general and with the Burgher, she therefore merited to have a daughter. And she was a supreme beauty, an extraordinarily great beauty, which was unlike any human beauty whatsoever, for among mankind one never sees such beauty. Everyone in the world would travel in and come to see her, and they would be very astonished at her beauty, which was very, very extraordinary, and would give her gifts all the time out of affection, and they kept presenting gifts until the Pauper became rich. As for the Burgher, it entered his mind that he should arrange a match with the Pauper due to her great beauty, which was such a marvel, and he thought to himself, maybe this is what the dream will mean, that what's his is brought to the Pauper, and what's the Pauper's to him. Maybe the dream signifies this, that they will have a match. They will be mixed into one through the match. One time, the Pauper's wife came to the Burgher, and he told her that he has a desire to have a match with her, his son with her daughter, and maybe through this, the dreams will be realized as above. She replied to him, I've had this in mind as well, but I didn't have the boldness to talk of this, that I should be related to you through marriage. But if you want, I am certainly ready and will certainly not hold back from you, for I have already sworn that all my good and my success will not be withheld from you. And the son of the Burgher and the daughter both learned in one schoolroom, languages and other things, as was the order among them. And people would come to see the daughter on account of the exceptional novelty and kept presenting her with gifts until the Pauper became rich. And nobility would come see her, and they liked her very much, and her beauty was an extreme marvel, for it was no human kind of beauty. And because of her extraordinary beauty, the nobility got the idea of contracting a marriage with the Pauper, and any minister who had a son wanted very much to contract a marriage with her. However, it would not befit the nobility to have a match with the Pauper. They therefore needed to see to exerting themselves to make the Pauper big, and they saw to it that he should perform a service for the Kaiser. And he was first an ensign, and afterwards continually higher and higher, for they saw to it to quickly promote him each time, until he rapidly became higher and higher, until he became a general. By now, the nobility already wanted to have a match with him. However, there were many nobility who wanted this, for many nobility had aimed at this and busied themselves with it to continuously promote him. Therefore, he could not have a match with any of them. And furthermore, he could not have a match with any of them on account of the Burgher, for it was already discussed that there would be a match with him. And the Pauper, who has now become a general, he became more and more successful, and the emperor would send him into battles, and he was successful each time, and the emperor promoted him higher each time, and he was continuously very successful until the emperor died. The entire country came to the decision to make him emperor, and all the nobility assembled together, and all agreed that he should be emperor. He became emperor, that is, the aforementioned Pauper has now become emperor, and he waged wars and was very successful, conquering countries and waged more wars, and was continuously successful, continually taking over countries until the other lands themselves submitted themselves under him with goodwill. So all the kings met together and agreed that he should be emperor over the entire world, and they gave him a document written with golden letters. And the emperor, that is the pauper who has become emperor over the entire world, no longer wanted to have a match with the burgher, for it is not fitting that an emperor should have a match with a burgher. But his wife, the empress, she did not desert the burgher. That is, she stood by the burgher because he had risked his life for her sake, as mentioned. But she, the empress, kept adhering to the burgher. Then the emperor realized that as long as the son is alive, that is the burgher's son, he can make no other match. The emperor exerted himself to rid the young man, chosen, unmarried, man from the earth, and he thought out plans to eliminate him. And he set up false charges on him and called the judges into session to try him. The judges understood that the emperor's will was that he be eliminated from the world, and they delivered the sentence that he be put in a sack, that is, the burgher's son, and thrown into the sea. The empress saves the burgher's son. Her daughter sends him a note in captivity. He escapes and becomes lodged alone in a wilderness. As for the empress, her heart was very pained at this. However, even the empress too can do nothing up against the emperor. She went to the designees who were appointed to throw him into the sea, and she came to them and fell at their feet and pleaded with them direly that they should, for her sake, let him go, for why does he deserve execution? So she begged them very much that they should take another captive who had to be executed and throw him into the sea, and the young man they should release. This she achieved with them. They swore that they would release him, and so they did. And they took another man and threw him into the sea. But him they released, saying, "Go, go!" And he went away. And the young man was already of mature mind, son of knowledge, so he went his way. And before this, that is, prior to the young man leaving, the empress went and summoned her daughter and said to her thus, "My daughter, you must know that this burgher's son is your groom." And she told her daughter the entire story that happened to her, and how the burgher sacrificed his well-being for my sake and was with me in the 7 places, that is, in the 7 types of water. And I swore to him every time by God that all my good would not be withheld from him. And I took those 7 places as witnesses, that is, the pit, the mikveh, and all the rest of the 7 types of water. Therefore now, you are all my good and all my mazal and my success. You are certainly his, and his son is your groom. And your father, because of his haughtiness, wants to kill him for no reason. But I have already made efforts to save him and have brought about his release. Therefore you should know that he is your groom, that is, the burgher's son, and you must not agree with any other groom in the world. The daughter accepted her mother's words, because she too was a God-fearing person, and she replied to her mother that she would certainly uphold her words. The daughter went and sent a note to the burgher's son in prison that she retains herself by him, and he is her groom. And she sent something like a piece of a map, and she drew on it all the places where her mother had hidden with his father, which are the 7 witnesses, that is, the pit, the mikveh, and the rest as mentioned. That is, on it she drew something like a pit, a mikveh, and the rest of the 7 types of waters. And she ordered him very, very strongly that he should guard this note very, very much, and she signed herself underneath. Then things took place as mentioned. The deputies took another man, and they released him, and he went on his way. And he went and went until he reached the sea, and he boarded a ship and set out upon the sea. A big storm wind came along and carried away the ship to a coast that was desert, that is, desolate, and on account of the great tempest, the ship was broken up. However, the passengers were saved and made out to dry land. And there it was a wilderness. The people from the ship went off in search of food. Each one looked for something to eat, for at that location it was not the norm that ships should arrive there, for it was desert. Therefore, they did not think that some ship would come so that they could return home. They went along in the wilderness in search of food and became scattered here and there, each one separate. And the young man wanted to turn back, but he no longer could. And the more he wanted to turn back, the farther he got, until he saw he could no longer return. So he went where he went, in the wilderness. And he had in his hand a bow with which he protected himself against the vicious animals of the wilderness, and while walking, he found himself something to eat there. And thus he walked and walked until he emerged from the wilderness. And he arrived at a habitable spot that was a vacant place, and there was water there and fruit trees around with fruit, and he ate of the fruit and drank of the water. And he resolved in his mind that he would settle down there for as long as he lives. For after all, anyhow, it is already difficult for him to return to civilization, and who knows if he would again arrive at such a place if he would leave this place and go away. Therefore, he wanted to dwell away there and live out this world. For it was good for him there, as he had fruit to eat and water to drink. And sometimes he would go out and shoot with his bow a rabbit or a deer, and he had meat to eat. And he would catch fish there, for there were very good fish in the water there. It pleased him to live out his years there.